like to sit down. I got assigned to the commercial crew cadre in 2015. We went to the companies, found out the shell of their programs, and then actually started working with them to make them what they are today to accommodate astronauts. For Starliner, we've been heavily involved in the last couple of years in the software with the folks doing the development to make sure its capability will allow us to come home. And we've been involved with all the suit development, making sure every different size of person could fit in all these suits and they could operate the spacecraft adequately. We've had our fingers on every single procedure that we work inside the cockpit, as well as operated it with our mission control team to make sure that everything that future crews will do will be right. We haven't had the classic training as we had for Shuttle and Soyuz. We've sort of helped develop the training as well as the hardware. And this is sort of the shape of things to come as we get ready to go back to the moon. All of that is going to be developmental, and we're going to have the same mindset. It's not already established. We all have to be part of this big team to help develop it and make sure that integration, as the astronauts use all this equipment, is going to be top-notch and ready to take us even further.
2 hours, 6 minutes and counting until liftoff of CFT. Both Butch and Sunny inside Starliner, which is sitting on top of a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's Launch Pad 41. As you can see, we still have a pad team member in there. Looks like they're still helping either Sunny with something or, again, just readying the spacecraft for launch.
You know, it's interesting because the spacecraft is made for microgravity, and so actually you can't stand on the floor of the spacecraft, and so there's some special flooring pieces that are installed so that the pad team can walk around without damaging any of the components of the spacecraft and help get the astronauts strapped in. So I know as one of their final checks, they'll remove that specialized flooring and check the configuration inside of the spacecraft. As you mentioned, to get everything out that doesn't need to go to space.
Oh, there it is. It looks like they have taken the narwhal out and they are finding a place to tether it. Maybe I'm just imagining it because I can't really see Sunny's face, but she looks happy to see the narwhal out. Again, a special zero gravity indicator that she picked with her niece and nephew.
Pad, you are now on air to ground 1. Copy. Starliner crew, is there anything else you need help with before we leave and close the hatch?
Waiting to hear if Butch and Sunny say anything over the loops.
All right, Starliner crew, it's been an honor to strap in, not my crew, but my friends. Have a safe flight. See you up there.
I love that.
Sounds like strapping, everything went well. And you weren't imagining, I did see a smile on Sunny's face, and
Perfect.
I could see Norval tethered there in the middle.
And again, I love that comm check again to say they're friends. Dee, you've been saying this throughout the broadcast, really, but Butch and Sunny have been working so closely with everyone who is needed to make this mission possible that they kind of all just feel like family.
Absolutely. You know, we've been working with them for years. They've been a part of, just as Nicole mentioned, all of the processes, all of the training, making sure that the spacecraft works as it is supposed to. And of course, now they're both on this flight test where they're going to do this mission and confirm that. So, you know, we have gotten very, very close with them. And this is an exciting moment for us to see this. And looking forward to seeing them lift off and begin this mission.
You know, it's interesting because you think of, you know, Butch and Sunny, of course, are the astronauts on top of the rocket right now and the ones going to space, but they really do represent, you know, that huge family of NASA and Boeing and everybody that's worked so hard to get to this point.
Go ahead, AC.
Okay, evaluating the SRV, we're most likely getting above the call cycles of this valve. We still have 2+ hours to go, so most likely exceeding the fall value. We do not have a path to proceed further at this point.
Roger. So at this point, your recommendation is to secure operations for today?
That is correct.
Roger. LD, LC on channel 1?
Yes, sir. LD concurs with that.
Roger. Flight and Slick, channel 1?
Right here. Slick's on channel 1.
Yeah, Roger. So the engineering team has evaluated the vehicle is not in a configuration where we can proceed with flight today. So we're going to initiate our scrub and recycle operation.
Roger. Flight copy.
Roger.
And if you're just joining us, I'll look at the clock
Well,
here.
personnel, this is LC on channel 1. Let's turn to page 187, scrub crew egress operations.
Again, the clock 2 hours ahead of what we were targeting, a 10:34 and 14-second p.m. Eastern Time liftoff. But you just heard from the launch team that we are scrubbing
OSM,
for today.
LC.
OSM, go ahead, sir.
Establish the BDA roadblocks and open the flight hazard area.
Roger.
All personnel on channel 1 will be starting an estimated 65-minute hold at this time for flight crew egress. All systems maintain T-4 configuration.
As we hear some communication between team members, let's get it over to ULA's Dylan Rice to walk us through what we know so far and what we can expect moving forward today.
Thanks, Megan. So the team has had some observations on an oxygen relief valve on our Centaur second stage, and the team is just not comfortable with the signatures that they're seeing, the response out of that valve, and so out of an abundance of caution, we are not going to continue with our launch operations today. And as you heard, the Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo call the team there and have the team prepare for scrub operations and to prep for removal of the crew from Starliner. So next steps, the team is going to be maintaining the configuration of the rocket, and we'll begin the process of egressing the crew. And once the crew is egressed and the blue team is safely left the pad, at that point we'll begin detanking the rocket and securing for the evening so that teams can continue to review data and troubleshoot the signature noted with the valve on board Centaur.
Channel 1.
Disappointing.
Go ahead, sir.
Sunny,
Yes, sir. So
you
you may have heard on channel 1 we're standing down for today. So starting to initiate getting the vehicle in configuration to egress the crew.
Roger, Wilco.
So I was saying, Sunny even said, nothing special about this date on the calendar. We will go when we're ready. Not today, but we'll try this again. So a lot of what's going to be happening now is sort of what we've seen happen up to this point, just in reverse.
Right, and again, this decision was not made lightly, but really out of an abundance of caution. We say that the rocket business is a business of 10 million details, and only when all 10 million details are correct and where you want them to be do you let your rocket fly. So for today, we're going to go back and
Slick LC channel 1.
LC, you have Slick.
Yeah, Roger. So I'll rely on you, timing-wise, to let me know when you're ready for the CTV convoy to return to pad.
Yep, I was working that right now.
Roger.
So again, for now, we'll be maintaining the configuration of the launch vehicle until the crew and the blue team have exited the area, and at that point, we'll begin detanking and securing the launch vehicle for the evening. So for now, I think we'll turn it back over to Megan at the host desk.
Thank you, Dylan. Again, just a recap for folks, about 4 minutes ago, the launch team decided to stand down from the launch attempt today. Dylan noting for us that the ULA folks and the launch team, they decided to, out of an abundance of caution, to stand down because they saw something off nominal with an oxygen relief valve on Centaur. So right now we are looking live inside the White Room, where the pad team will begin procedures to help the crew out of Starliner, out and down the crew access tower. And then we also heard that plans are in place to return the Astrovan to the pad to pick up the team and return them to astronaut crew quarters. Now, Nicole, walk us through what we expect to see. There are obviously procedures in place for this exact thing, if needed.
Absolutely, and this is trained and rehearsed multiple times as well. And so ULA will make sure the rocket is in a good state, and they will follow their procedures. As far as the crew specifically, since the hatch wasn't closed and ordnance wasn't armed, it's quite simple for the crew. They'll wait for some callouts to make sure that the spacecraft's in a good config. That will be putting the comm, demerging the comm channels, transitioning back to ground power, and making sure that the prop system is all secured. And then the crew will egress. They'll pretty much do exactly what they did to get in, but an opposite with help of the pad team.
Okay. Do you know how long we expect that to happen? Is this a long process, or for the most part, this is pretty easy once we know it is safe for them to start getting out?
Once the rocket, we know the rocket's in a good config and they give the go, it's relatively quick to make sure that.
RLM-11.
Go ahead.
RLM line items disabled for red line report.
Roger. P&E2 LC.
Go ahead.
Secure CEC and activate safety purge.
Roger.
And you hear the comm.
FTS LC.
FDS.
Secure RF FTS and GPS metric tracking.
Roger.
That's the comm there from ULA. They are following their specific, procedure, and it's really just true professionals executing the scrub on the ULA side, as
Go
well
ahead.
as Boeing.
CEC secured and saving purge active.
Roger.
Another look inside Starliner. Butch and Sunny there. Butch closest to us, Sunny to his right, and a pad team member in there who will soon help them get out of Starliner. Nicole, you were saying, you must know how they might be feeling right now. You're close with them as friends and also as a fellow astronaut.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, of course, a natural human reaction is a little bit of disappointment. It's a very exciting time, and we all want to see, this spacecraft launch. But at the same time, it's a deep sense of appreciation that the team is doing the right thing, that they are checking all of the instrumentation, that they are able to identify something that's off nominal, because the last thing you want to do is deal with something like that in space. And so when we identify something like this on the ground, we see that as a big win. We avoided a potential problem by identifying it early. And yep, the wool scrub. This is something I think as an astronaut you train to multiple times, and you're prepared for that as well. It's important that you keep your head in the game, though, because potentially they could launch tomorrow, depending on the findings of this investigation. And so you maintain your focus. You are still sitting on top of a rocket filled with prop, and so you follow your procedures just like everybody does. You never let your guard down, and they'll execute. the steps to safely get out of the spacecraft, and then they'll go back to crew quarters. They'll maintain their quarantine so that they can preserve a launch opportunity, and then they'll wait for more information from the team.
Yeah, you talk about how the team rehearses all different scenarios. It truly is. I mean, can you talk to, for those who might not know, can you talk about the process of, simulating all the things that could go wrong so that if it does happen, everything is kind of rote. It's kind of just like muscle memory, and you don't really have to think too much because you just know it like the back of your hand.
Absolutely. That is the most important part about being well trained. And it's not only the astronauts, it's the entire team. So you see that the pad team knows exactly what they need to be doing. You can hear the comm from ULA. Everybody at their console has specific responsibilities and steps that they need to take. And each member of the team is critical to make sure that we're successful in these type of procedures. And we train to them in simulations, scrubbing, and pretty every contingency that we can think of, we will actually run through. In the few instances where I've been involved in an actual contingency or an emergency, you're right. The training really takes over. You maintain focus, you execute your procedures, and it's really not until after that's all done that you realize that.
Hey, Houston Starliner, we're standing by. As we said, we did go ahead and unstrap. Curious if we're going to run anything in the scrub recycle procedure as you're looking forward, since we didn't get very far.
Starliner Houston, loud and clear. We are running it. A lot of the events are sort of no perform because we didn't get that far in the count. I will keep you appraised. The main action on your radar will be bringing the suit fan Bravo to off before you jump out.
Yeah, and we're not going to open the cabin vent valve or anything, I'm assuming, as well.
Negative, yeah, hatch is open, so none of that applies.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. Okay, thanks.
And that was our Capcom capsule communicator, Josh Kutrick, who will be flying on Starliner 1. He's the Capcom for Ascent, and he was just talking to Butch about the scrub recycle procedures that he has in his checklist.
And Capcom is the voice that we've primarily been hearing talk to the astronauts, correct?
Yes, during the comm checks, you'll hear a lot of different folks talking on the loops. But really, once the launch happens and they get to orbit, then the only person talking to the crew is the Capcom.
And LC Slick on Channel 1.
Go ahead, Slick.
Yeah, we're getting ready for crew egress, so we would be good for the CTV to come to the pad gate and hold there.
Roger. OSM, LC?
OSM.
Roger. Notify crew transport convoy to return to pad, permit entry into the BDA, and ask them to hold at the pad gate, please.
Roger.
Call outs now to have the Astrovan return to the launch pad to pick up the crew once they have egressed. Excuse me.
And you can see Butch and Sunny, they're unstrapped and visors are up. They're just waiting for the call from ground to turn off that suit fan, which is the fan that's providing air to their suits, prior to detaching their suits from the spacecraft and exiting Starliner.
Again, if folks are just joining us, about 12 minutes ago, the launch team has decided to stand down from today's launch attempt. We were targeting 10:34 and 14 seconds Eastern Time for liftoff of NASA's Boeing crew flight test. We now are looking at Commander Butch Wilmore and pilot Sunny Williams. They are in the Starliner spacecraft, awaiting word that they can continue with egress procedures.
Starliner Houston, still with you. No real change. OFM is off. The prop system is not secured, but it's an unknown and an expected config, and we'll still get suit fan Bravo off here before you jump out. Otherwise, just stand by for us.
Yep, we're standing by. Thank you.
The reason the launch team is standing down today is so that they can evaluate an oxygen relief valve on Centaur. That's the second stage of ULA's Atlas V rocket. Nicole, some of those callouts we just heard over the operational communication loops or nets, as they're called. Again, just taking steps towards safing the launch vehicle, right?
Yes, ULA is working towards making sure the launch vehicle is in a good config, and then Mission Control is focusing on Starliner, the spacecraft itself, to make sure that the systems are in the proper configuration before the astronauts exit the spacecraft. And I think you heard the call there from Josh that the final thing will be to turn their suit fans off. And so the controllers in Mission Control, the flight controllers, are now sending commands, to the spacecraft to get it in that good config, and then Butch will send that final command for the suit fan.
Throughout the show, we've had commentators across NASA, Boeing, and ULA monitoring the launch. So why don't we head back over to our ULA commentator, Dylan Rice, who continues to monitor what's happening now as we take steps to egress the crew.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, you've heard some of the communication as the team has gotten into the securing processes here. So from a rocket perspective, really what's going to happen next is we're just going to hold the current configuration of the rocket. We're not going to start detanking. We're not changing any configuration at all until the crew has egressed the capsule and the team has left the pad. There were a couple of
LCO, Sam.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. You have per step 90. You have 20 personnel entering BDA at this time.
Roger.
Okay, with that call indicating the crew convoy has now arrived back at the pad. But there were a couple initial securing items that we did early on in the process here, and that was securing our RF systems and then stopping the Centaur engine chill down, given that we're not planning on launching today. Otherwise, the launch vehicle is maintaining a safe configuration until we get the crew and the blue team away from the pad. And in a situation like this, if we see any data signature that is not something that we have seen before, then we are just simply not willing to take any chances with what is our most precious payload. So we're going to take a step back, go review that data, go understand why this signature is different from what is in our previous experience base, and then we'll take whatever action required before we reattempt a launch. So for now, the team is going to continue to watch over the launch vehicle as the crew gets ready to egress the capsule. The 3 members of the ULA Blue team now are going to be standing by, waiting to secure the White Room once the crew has egressed Starliner, and then at that point we'll close Starliner up and begin our detanking. So in our planning and in our practice runs, that whole process takes just a little over an hour. So we're I believe we're approximately 15 minutes into that time now. So very shortly we'll be seeing the astronauts egress the capsule and then make their way down the crew access tower back to the van and back over to the ONC for the evening.
And of course, all of our teams do so much training, so many run-throughs, and scrubs are no different. We run through good days, and we also run through scrubs. So this is not the first time these teams are going through these motions, even though this is the first time we have had a crew on Starliner. So they will be going through their procedures for this scrub. I think we saw just a second ago some of the pad team members flipping through, and they're going to be leaving everything in the proper configuration for...
And Houston PLT is egressing. I'm waiting on the suit fan call.
Copy, we still got good video, and we will call you for suit fan Bravo. Thanks.
Okay, doke.
All right, so Butch just waiting now while Sunny gets out first. Just like we saw Butch go in first, Sunny come in second. They'll go.
And Starliner, Houston for CDR this time. We see you getting out. As soon as you are on your way out, you go to shut that suit fan Bravo off. Let us know when it's off.
Welcome.
And Sunny making her way out of the spacecraft now. The pad team there to help her get out.
You know, Lauren, just like we talked about when we started the built-in hold as we prepared to load the astronauts. This countdown has really been developed to support not only just 2 astronauts but 5, even 7 astronauts on Starliner, right? So the same thing with the egress procedure. When it comes time to pull astronauts out, the time that we've got allocated could support as many supports pulling a full complement of astronauts off of Starliner. That's not what we're doing today. We've just got Butch and Sonny on board, and so it is possible that we'll be moving much more quickly into our scrub detank operations. But for now, we've got bookmarked that 65 minutes to get the crew off, but probably will not quite take that long, given that we're only pulling two people out of Starliner.
And of course, this happened early enough in the countdown that the pad team was still there. We didn't have to wait for the pad team to return and help them get out. So as Sunny is going through her scrub procedures right now in the white room outside of Starliner, Butch is waiting for the pad team to help him egress the spacecraft.
And again, these are contingency procedures that, just like the launch procedures, we have exercised these contingency procedures as well for launch scrubs and having to come down off the tower and head back to the ONC. So nothing new to this team. This team has been through these procedures, and they're very well understood.
LC Slick on channel 1.
Go ahead, Slick.
Hey, looks like CDR is out. We're going to go do a few things, but we'd be ready to do comm checks with LC on the OSC radio here in a minute, and we'll get the CTV up to the base of the cat.
Roger.
You see Butch is now out of Starliner, back into the white room as they start to detach some of those items that were on his spacesuit.
That previous call we just heard as well. Once the astronauts are out of the capsule and the blue team is complete up on the tower, they're not in complete communication, via the hardline communication systems like we've been talking nets and loops all evening long. So that previous call there was to establish a comm check with the chief launch conductor via the walkie-talkies. So we do have the walkie-talkies available for those periods of time when we're not actually on the hardline communication system. So they'll be executing that comm check shortly. And again, that's per one of our contingency procedures. We have got plans in place to address most problems that come up, and that is one of them. That just make sure your walkie-talkies work before you unplug yourself from the hardline communications systems. And again, those walkie-talkies allowing the team to communicate with the team in the field, to communicate with the team back here in the Launch Control Center as they're driving out of the pad and over to the fallback area.
The Astrovan will be there shortly to pick them back up and take them back over to crew quarters. If you are just joining us, we were supposed to be about an hour and 38 minutes away from launch right now, but the teams have decided to stand down today. That's why you see the astronauts in the white room. They were strapped into Starliner, and we have just been going through procedures to get them back out of Starliner and soon headed back to crew quarters. A lot of the things we walked you through earlier, they're doing in reverse right now, just to make sure that everything is in the proper config for the next attempt. Dylan Sunny recently was talking to media, and she made the comment that one of her...
OSM, LC.
OSM, go ahead, sir.
Roger. Crew transport vehicle is clear to proceed to the CAT.
Roger, copy that.
All right, so the Astrovan will be pulling up to the crew access tower now to come pick up Butch and Sunny. As I was saying, Sunny was recently speaking with the media, and she was telling us that One of her other friends, her astronaut buddies, said, just so you know, in case there's any kind of a scrub, sometimes that's just good to knock the nerves off for everyone, and it could, be good luck to go again another day. So they are veteran astronauts and quite used to how often scrubs do happen in space flight. You could see they're laughing there on the left of your screen. So they're in good spirits. Of course, these days are, disappointing for teams,
LC
but
Slick on Channel 1.
definitely not
Go ahead,
something.
Flick.
We're ready for the flight crew and support personnel to perform OSE radio comm checks and to proceed to the ground level. They'll exit the white room and give you a call.
Roger.
And Lauren, as test pilots, they're very familiar with contingency procedures
Yes.
as well. Because when you're testing a new system, obviously there's always going to be some findings, some of them more significant than others. But either way, the test pilots would be in a unique position to expect the unexpected and to be adaptive, which I know both of them are.
And with this being a test flight, even in a scrub situation, all the teams involved are going to be learning things. I'm sure Butch and Sunny will have things to note.
has arrived at the base of the cat.
Roger.
The Astrovan is at the base of the crew access tower now. So as you see Butch and Sunny having a conversation with the pad team there, I'm sure we will see them starting to head down momentarily. Teams on some of the side nets are telling us the crew egress procedures are complete. Sunny getting some help with her helmet there. All right, they are on the move. They are going to be headed back into the elevator. They are on level 12, so headed back down to the base of the crew access tower, and we'll get back into the Astrovan to head back to crew quarters. And with that, we will send it back over to the ladies at the desk, Megan, Dee, and Nicole.
Thank you,
Roger.
Lauren and Dylan, for giving us more insight into today's scrub. Now, so we just saw Sunny and Butch get into the elevator from level 12 here at the crew access tower, and they are now going down to the pad, where, as you just heard, they will get into the Astrovan. Nicole, what are the next procedures, right? So they'll go back to astronaut crew quarters, and what happens then?
So they'll go back there and obviously get out of their spacesuits, and then we can expect a brief. The astronauts will get briefed on the details of the anomaly that was seen on Centaur and
Crew
information
have arrived at the ground floor and exited the cat elevator.
Roger.
and information on what the next plan is. And so, hopefully we have an opportunity to launch tomorrow, but we don't have enough information yet to know. But the crew will plan on that, right? They have to always be prepared. And so they will follow their schedule as far as eating and sleeping and other, briefings that they need to obtain. And they'll make sure that they kind of reset themselves. So they'll have a chance to reunite with their immediate family. And again, that's why everybody stays in quarantine, so that even in a situation like this, they can, the support folks as well as family can still be together.
Yeah, everything is choreographed down to the minute. You were talking about their schedule because, again, since this launch is later at night, everything has to shift so that they're awake and ready for launch when it is.
Yes, sleep shift is a big part of it, and even though we see this launch at 22:30, the astronauts have already been up for 5 hours, and once they launch and get to orbit, they still have a lot to do in orbit to test out the systems of Starliner, and so it's a very long day. It's important that they are well rested and ready to go.
And now we see the Astrovan backing up away from the elevator that took the crew to and from level 12 of the crew access tower. Again, on their way to astronaut crew quarters inside the Neil A. Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building. This drive, again, will take about 20 to 25 minutes. Nicole, you mentioned that because of the scrub, they will have time to see their families again. That must be nice to have that opportunity to reconnect with them.
I think it is. There's always, a ton of emotions associated with launch, and maybe you don't realize it at the time, but I remember talking to my husband and son after launch.
Crew transport vehicle has exited the pad gate.
Roger.
And just a comment on how much just energy and excitement. And when you have all those emotions running through your body, it can be quite exhausting. So it'll be nice to have a chance to reunite with their family, as well as the astronauts and the other support personnel back at crew quarters. I'm sure they'll have a nice meal, which I know Butch always comments on the wonderful food and the folks that take care of us at astronaut crew quarters. And so we're thankful to continue to have their support, and then we'll be standing by for the next steps.
Yeah, that's interesting and very correct of you to say that Butch in the last few days leading up to launch has been talking about how excited he is for the food here at KSC. So hats off to the chefs at Astronaut Crew Quarters. Butch was looking forward to a meatloaf meal. I'm sure he had it before launch, and Sunny was looking forward to eating some salmon. So at least they'll be treated to another delicious meal at Astronaut Crew Quarters.
And even the folks all the way from the chefs to the to everybody that keeps the crew quarters up and functioning, this has all been rehearsed and part of a plan. So all these the contingency plans are laid out and in place, and now they just need to be executed.
And you had mentioned that there is an opportunity to launch tomorrow. There's an opportunity to launch May 10th and May 11th as well. We say opportunities to launch because we just know the date and time is reserved on the range. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, an opportunity really means, from an orbital mechanics standpoint, as far as the spacecraft rendezvousing in a proper profile with the International Space Station and range availability. That's all we know when we say a launch attempt. There's still a lot of other factors, weather often being one of the biggest ones, and then of course the status of the spacecraft and the rocket. Those are the status is unknown right now, and so we'll stand by for further information. And once we have that information, NASA, together with Boeing and ULA, will determine what the next launch attempt will be. So that's kind of the difference when we talk about a launch opportunity versus a launch attempt.
Right. So I'll list, the backup launch opportunities we have. But again, these are just opportunities, as Nicole has been saying, and as well as Dylan.
LC, this is FTS on channel 1.
Go ahead, FTS.
Yeah, step 50, RF, FTS, and GPS metric tracking is secured.
Roger.
If you're just joining us, about 30 minutes ago.
LCOSM.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. 22 personnel have exited BDA area.
Roger.
About 30 minutes ago, the launch team decided to stand down from today's launch attempt of NASA's Boeing crew flight test. Out of an abundance of caution, the launch team wants to reevaluate an oxygen relief valve on the Centaur, which is the upper stage of the Atlas V rocket. Right now on your screen, you're watching Butch and Sunny and their full security convoy make their way from Launch Pad 41 on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and they will make their way through Kennedy Space Center to make their way back to astronaut crew quarters. The ULA team will evaluate, again, that valve. And Nicole, you were saying that you expect the crew to get some sort of briefing as to what information the team might have to share with them when they get back to crew quarters.
Absolutely. I expect that they'll get a preliminary briefing as soon as they get changed out of their flight suits or spacesuits, excuse me, and with just the information that they have. And then they'll set a time for a follow-on briefing. Maybe that will be tonight, maybe it'll be tomorrow. It really depends on the situation. But it's important that the crew is aware of what the issue was and that they understand the steps that were taken. Obviously before they attempt another launch.
We've been saying throughout the broadcast that Butch always likes to ask why. I'm sure he'll be very vocal as we make plans for a next launch attempt.
Absolutely, and rightfully so. I think the great thing is that we have a great team with Boeing and ULA and NASA, and so everybody will come together and talk about the anomaly and what they've done to address it, and then together we'll make a decision. They'll make a decision when it's appropriate to attempt another launch, and so it's really a team effort, and it's important that we have each member of the team looking at those different opportunities and looking at them from each different perspective. And again, we'll also be taking a look at the weather, so a lot of other factors that will roll into it.
From the host desk here, we can see in the distance some of the lights from the convoy making their way past the press site here where we are sitting, which is across the street from NASA's Vehicle Assembly Building. And then they will make their way to crew quarters. Nicole, you said again that this was all prepared for and thought of in case this did happen, and we did see very quickly how everyone knew what to do.
Yes, sir. Talking with the Denver team and our team, we're probably going to want to do that troubleshooting that we had come up with on this SRV once we get the pad clear. So I'd like permission to take that to 6 and get that discussed, get you a recommendation.
Roger, please, committee nominee team, provide a recommendation. I'd estimate at this time it'd be about 30 minutes. We'll be ready to start detanking.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Everything is rehearsed from what we call nominal operations, where everything goes perfectly smooth, to little issues, so that everybody's aware how to troubleshoot those and what their roles and responsibilities are, as well as a scrub, as well as major contingencies. We really practice all of those different scenarios so that the team is prepared. And I think you'll see, or you can recognize today how calm everybody was, and they're executing their procedures. Everybody knows their role. And quite quickly, we talked about the situation, and Butch and Sunny were informed, a decision was made, and then once they started the scrub process, they were actually outside of the spacecraft quite quickly. So really just a testament to the professionalism and the preparedness that we see from this team. And I think we see the Astrovan passing the press site and the VAB right now.
Crew quarters, probably another 10-minute drive from here. This crew flight test, a historic one, only the 6th time that NASA will fly a new crew transportation vehicle. As you said, Nicole, I'm sure Butch and Sunny might be a bit disappointed, but they know as veteran space flyers, this is part of the process. You know, everything has to be right, and a particular date and time isn't the final say at all.
Oh, you're absolutely right. There's nothing about a particular date and a time. You know, when's the right time is to launch is when the rocket's ready, when the spacecraft is ready, when the crew is ready. That's all that really matters. So it's just part of the business. You know, we are literally launching humans into space, and it is rocket science. So it's not easy, and we just appreciate the professionalism of the team, keeping a close eye on all the instrumentation and identifying any potential issues early, so that we can do the right thing and make sure that when we do launch, that it is as safe as feasibly possible.
Yeah, it's a good point to, again, remind folks, yes, this is literal rocket science, and sometimes might be easy to forget that because a lot of it is a well-oiled machine. You know, teams, again, proficient and ready in all of their respective roles, that sometimes it might look easy.
You know, I think you're right. Sometimes I think, especially recently in the past, maybe 5 years or so, we've had so many launches. I mean, there was a launch earlier today. It's absolutely incredible, and it's just a great reminder that this will never be routine. It never can be. It is a very it's a very dangerous business, and that's why we have professional teams doing all the checks and making sure it's that we mitigate the risk the best that we can. And so it's a great reminder to never take that for granted.
Anything you might want to say to Butch and Sunny tonight? I mean, actually, do you plan to maybe have an opportunity to touch base with them, and what might you say to them?
I'll shoot them a text, but I'm sure they'll be quite busy with seeing their family, and I'm sure that from their family and friends, you can imagine how many texts and phone calls they're going to get. But I think it's important that they maintain focus, and they know that too. So I think a lot of folks, especially in the astronaut corps, will kind of just leave them alone, knowing that they have a lot to deal with, a lot going on. They need to stay in the game, because potentially they could launch tomorrow, since there is a launch opportunity. Um, and I can just imagine Butch with a smile on his face saying, "Yeah, well, this is human spaceflight. That's the way it goes." And he and Sunny thinking of this as just another great rehearsal for the entire team to walk through. And the next time they have an opportunity to walk out and ingress the spacecraft, you would expect it to go even smoother, and they're going to feel even more comfortable doing that. So I think that's the correct mindset to have. That's the best way to go about it.
He actually just reminded me, Butch, in one of the recent interviews, was asked, what do you think of setbacks? If there's a setback, what do you think of that? And he goes, they're not setbacks, they're steps forward. So as you said, another rehearsal, another opportunity to fine tune anything, to make sure that the next time is even better than the last.
Absolutely, and a great reminder that this is a developmental flight test. And this is, as you mentioned, we've only done this 6 other times in the history of humankind, and so it is a big deal. And every time we learn something, and we overcome that challenge, and we move forward, and that is a step in the right direction. That is progress.
We're going to see the convoy turn left here in just a few seconds, and then it's a straight shot back to the operations and checkout building here at Kennedy Space Center, where the west wing of the third floor, that is the astronaut crew quarters, a historic area of the ONC, where Butch and Sunny will go back to for the night.
Butch and Sunny have extensive experience launching. Obviously, each of them have launched twice to space, but they've also supported other astronauts launching from Kennedy Space Center multiple times. Butch specifically was a Cape Crusader back in the day, so he was, specifically a crew member that came out to support launches, and that's a lot of back and forth. And I'm sure he's seen a lot of scrubs and taken apart in successful launches and days when it's just not going to be our day to launch and you're going to come back and launch another day. So, he's seen it from the perspective of a crew member as well as the perspective of a support astronaut. In fact, Butch has flown the T-38 across the Gulf of Mexico 458 times.
Oh, wow.
And you know how I know that? He counts every time.
No.
It tells us. Yes, yes.
Very meticulous.
As a true naval aviator, yes, he's very proud of it. But it really just shows his extensive experience that he has in human spaceflight.
Mm-hmm. And Sunny, too, again, we've been listening to their backgrounds throughout this broadcast, and they both bring so much knowledge and experience to this moment. So, really honored to get to watch them take us through this developmental program and this flight test. And when they launch, it'll be really exciting to see.
Absolutely, and you see their demeanor, right? They're very calm, cool, and collected, shaking hands with everybody, and that's what a veteran astronaut does. And they really set the example for all the astronauts and really, all humans, how to deal with a situation that didn't go exactly as planned. You do it just like Butch and Sunny are doing here.
We're tracking the Astrovan pulling into the parking lot of the Operations and Checkout Building here at Kennedy Space Center. Make a couple of turns, and then we'll see the Astrovan back in front of those doors we saw Butch and Sunny walk out of about 2 hours ago. Looks like we have a couple of NASA astronauts there for their arrival.
Oh, there's Mike Fink. We just saw him, Mike Fink, walking up. So he's still obviously there every step of the way to support the astronauts.
Yeah, after we saw him leave the pad in the Astrovan, Mike went back to the Boeing Mission Control Center here at Kennedy. It's the building we pointed out right next to the Vehicle Assembly Building. And he was going to watch launch from there. So I'm sure after the scrub was called, he made a point to be back here to welcome Sunny and Butch. And if you're just joining us, welcome to Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where at about 8:34 this evening, the launch team decided to stand down from today's launch attempt of NASA's Boeing crew flight test. That was after the ULA team decided to reevaluate an oxygen relief valve that's on the Centaur upper stage. So that's the upper stage of the Atlas V rocket. If you have been watching us, you saw just a few minutes ago NASA astronauts Commander Butch Wilmore as well as pilot Sonny Williams. They have exited the Astrovan after the Astrovan picked them up from Launch Pad 41 and took them back to astronaut crew quarters, where they will spend the night and get updated as to the next steps to when another launch attempt can be made. I want to open it up to the hostess here now. Nicole, any final thoughts as we await some information about what happened tonight and again, the steps moving forward?
Of course, just a really professional job done by the team in identifying a potential issue and then initiating the scrub. It was executed as planned, and the astronauts are now back at crew quarters, and they'll receive a briefing on the next launch opportunity, and hopefully that is soon. But in the meantime, we'll be standing by. And I know we all feel maybe a little bit disappointed, but this is a human space flight, and that's the way things go. There's a lot that goes into launching humans safely from the planet. And so I think that I just feel, thankful that this potential issue was caught early and that everybody is safe. And we're looking forward to another attempt soon.
Yeah, well said, Nicole. And Dee, from Boeing's standpoint, anything you'd like to say?
Absolutely. Of course, safety is our top priority. So, and this is no different. We really appreciate ULA's partnership throughout the Boeing Starliner program and their work with commercial crew. And, we'll fly when we're ready.
Right. All right, so with that, we want to pull up on the screen right now the link to the Commercial Crew blog, and that is where we will post the latest information about an upcoming press conference that we do plan to have. We do want to be able to share with you what we do know about the reason why we stood down today from launch. So again, take a look at your screen, blogs.nasa.gov/Boeing crew flight test. Again, that's where you can go to find out when we will have that press conference, which will be on NASA TV. So again, you are watching NASA TV right now, so this is the place where you'll be able to watch that press conference. We're aiming for about an hour or so, but again, we do want to give our teams as much time as they need to gather the most accurate and timely information they can for you. And again, we will share that at that upcoming press conference. But for now, again, we want to thank you so much for sticking with us and watching our live coverage of the first launch attempt of Boeing's crew flight test, NASA and Boeing's crew flight test. But until then, and that press conference, we hope to see you on there for more information about when we can next launch. Have a good night.
We put our heart into everything we do. We are farmers, bakers, florists, and makers who grow and create with a passion. 1-800-Flowers, share with love.
Two NASA astronauts are suiting up to make history as the first two to fly aboard Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. We are tracking liftoff of this flight test at 10:34 and 14 seconds p.m. Eastern Time from Florida's Space Coast to the International Space Station.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Rocket Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries. 2, 1, 0, liftoff. America's return to space as Discovery clears the tower. Discovery, go and throttle up. Discovery rocket, go for deploy. Space here, that's everybody in the shuttle program. The crew is go for launch. Roger, balance will be in orbit. We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Good evening, and welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for NASA's Boeing Crew Flight Test, or CFT. I'm NASA's Megan Cruz.
And I'm Dee Russell with Boeing Communications. Also joining us today is NASA astronaut Nicole Mann. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Megan, Dee. I'm so excited to be here, a part of this historic flight. Go Starliner.
Yeah, all three of us are very excited, and we're excited that you can join us today to watch and follow along for the next few hours. Because again, today is only the 6th time NASA astronauts will launch on a new spacecraft designed for crew, and it will lift off on United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, which ULA just finished fueling cryogenics a few minutes ago. Now, both Starliner and the rocket stand ready on Launch Pad 41. You're seeing a beautiful view view there from one of our helicopters at nearby Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's Launch Pad 41. And the last time an Atlas-class rocket sent humans to space was 61 years ago for the final flight of NASA's Mercury program.
Over the next 5 hours, we will walk you through the launch of today's flight test. NASA and Boeing want to certify Starliner for regular flights to the International Space Station.